Hi, it's Scott Hamilton, Rockfile, back with another podcast review. I am revisiting the cinematic classic, Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. I read this book. I thought what Seth Grahame-Smith did with these books, he did several things like this, taking historical figures and historical places and then injecting zombies or injecting vampires or whatever. It's satire. But they're pretty well written. They're entertaining to read. And for somebody like me who's not the biggest fan of history, I mean, yes, I am, but I'm a little older now, and there's no more new history coming out. You know what I mean? So I'm more of a current events and current pop culture guy than a nostalgic guy. But yeah, I've been there, read, done, studied, etc. Anyway, I found the books interesting. I enjoyed Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies, and I enjoyed Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. So when I heard they were going to make a movie out of it, there was a big bidding war, actually, and Fox got the rights to it. I was kind of excited because I'm like, okay, if they get a cool director, this could be very interesting. And like Tim Burton produced it. And they brought in Timur Bekmambetov. I think that's how you say it. I first discovered this Russian director. He wrote and directed Night Watch and Day Watch, which were adaptations, again, of books I had read that I really, really liked. They have an interesting mythology about cursing people and ghost phantoms, afterlife. I mean, it's a very interesting mythology that they have going on in the Day Watch, Night Watch novels and ongoing. And I thought he did a good job with those two movies. Those two movies were huge hits in Russia and so big that Fox basically brought them over here. If you can ever find the original version of Night Watch, by the way, in the movie theater and on the original Blu-ray, the subtitles are done in a ghostly script that kind of writes and vanishes. It's not your typical subtitle stuff, and I don't think they continued to do that after like the first pressings or whatever. I don't know, but it was very interesting in the movie theater, and it was very interesting when it first came to home video, but I'm getting off topic. So Timur Bekmambetov made his U.S. debut with Wanted with Angelina Jolie, that Assassins movie, which was based on a graphic novel, and I thought he was the perfect guy. He has a very exaggerated sense of reality, kind of stylized, and it fits into that comic book genre kind of thing. So when they announced that Tim Burton, who is Tim Burton and does what he does with movies, announced that they would be working together on this, I'm like, okay, now this is going to be an interesting film. I went to the theater and walked out and went, well, I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was pretty badass. I remember after the movie, as most people say, the book is always better, but this thing pretty much does condense the book down into a usable, easy to watch size. Watching it again, and I'll get to why, it is a little uneven in places. They spend a little long in certain things where I would have wished they had spent more time on other things, and maybe that was part of the adaptation. But anyway, so you've got this satirical, interesting book, and you've got Tim Burton and this Russian director who's known for doing crazy, over-the-top, wild things with special effects and such. And you put them together, and they're adapting this an American president who led a secret life as a vampire killer. And it sounds dumb on the surface, and sure, if you think vampires are dumb and that kind of thing, well, then the whole thing just kind of falls apart, doesn't it? But if you like vampire stories and you want to see a different take on it, it's interesting because it doesn't actually quite live up to the title of being as crazy. They take it very seriously in the books and in the movie, and what if Lincoln was put through these things and dealt with this? Would he turn to this? And I thought they could have spent a little more time with him being a total badass. Most of the movie is spent with him getting into this, discovering this universe, his early life, that kind of thing. And it's very realistically done. And this was a big budget movie. Wikipedia said it's between $69 and $99 million budget, and it only grossed $116 million. So it made its money back barely. Or maybe almost doubled it, depending on how you look at it. But they never did any more with it, and this came out in 2012. And the sequel, book-wise, is actually quite good. Where it continues and goes is very, very interesting. But anyway, getting back to the movie, my roommate and I love movies. We love TV shows. We have this giant TV and this great sound system. and we're both fairly busy. So when we can meet to do things together, whether it be a Sunday afternoon watching Red Zone on NFL or whatever, we do, or hey, go round for a movie tonight? Yeah, let's watch a movie. So there was one night where he just picked one, and I was walking through, and he started watching Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, a movie that I bought on Blu-ray and even 3D Blu-ray when it came out in 2012, 2013. And I went, you know what? I haven't seen this since then, and it's October. Why not give it a shot? No better time to rewatch it. Pop some popcorn, sat down, and watched the whole thing. It holds up. It's a well-crafted movie. Again, if you can get past the absurdity of Abraham Lincoln being an axe-wielding vampire hunter, you have a great cast. Benjamin Walker is a Georgia actor who's not really broken through, and he's absolutely perfect as Abraham Lincoln. Dominic Cooper is in it. Anthony Mackie is in it. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is in it. Rufus Sewell. Even Alec Tudyk comes by playing Stephen A. Douglas. I mean, it's a really good cast for 2010, 2011 when the movie was made. And to this day, these are all, well-vetted actors. So watching the movie, like I said, I've read the book. I'm very familiar with it. I watched it a few times back when it first came out, and it's kind of sat on the shelf as I watch other things. So it was fun to revisit, and I got to say, it's still a very well-made movie. My only complaints about at the time, people, too much CG. Well, yes, but you couldn't have done a lot of the action scenes without it. I mean, there was just certain things that they pulled off that would be hard to do in camera without spending $1 billion, like the giant train trestle bridge that's on fire at the end of the movie. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of special effects in that, but there would have to be, wouldn't there? And some of the hyperkinetic fight scenes, they come off as a little digital these days, but again, they were trying to tell the story of the book and the story as it was on the page, and to pull that thing off with that technology, sure, it would look better now, but it looks pretty good. It holds up pretty good. And some of the stuff is done so artistically that you're looking at special effects, but it's the same thing as looking at a painting. It's like, wow, there is a scene where Abraham Lincoln chases a vampire across horses that are rampaging through the prairie. And they jump from horseback to horseback because, they have, Abraham Lincoln's super dude, and the vampire's got special powers, and they jump from horseback to horseback, but there's a lot of smoke and sunshine coming through the smoke, and it's almost pastel colors, and it's a gorgeous scene. It does come across as it's a lot of CG and a lot of digital, and obviously no horses were harmed, but it's very artistic looking. And with the entire movie, the details, the costumes, everything, they spent a lot. This is not a B movie. You hear a title like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, you think Sharknado. The same guys, are going to make something, and Sharknadoes don't cost anything to make. This was a lavish budget by a bunch of stars and a bunch of people who know how to make good movies. And so whether or not you like the subject matter would be the only thing holding you back from watching this movie, because it is a good movie. It tells the story of early Abraham Lincoln and how he first came in contact with vampires. And I'm not going to get into spoilers, but, it tells the history of the man and what happened before he became president, how things changed, and he put up the axe. That was his weapon of choice because he had grown up splitting wood and stuff, and he gets really good. And all of that stuff, the actors had to learn how to use these weapons. And Benjamin Walker must be a master axe thrower, because he twirls that thing like a baton and around his head and around his body and throws it and picks it up and catches and swings like a sword, like a samurai. I mean, it's amazing to watch. And the martial arts / axe fight, weapon fight scenes they came up with, the movie is very stylized in that way. It's almost a martial arts movie. There's so many fight scenes in it. But it's a variety of things being used, and of course the vampires come across as a little more animalistic than martial arts fighters or anything. But Rufus Sewell does a good job with his action scenes. He's the oldest vampire and the leader and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, if you haven't seen the movie yet, it's October. Why not? It's about vampires. It's got some pretty gruesome stuff in it, and it's an action movie. And Anthony Mackie as young Will Johnson, he's so young in this movie. It's amazing. Anthony Mackie from the Marvel movies. It's fun to see him this young before he made that jump. And he plays a pretty major role in the final third of the movie. So, if you're looking for a gothic action kind of horror movie, the vampires are pretty horrible. They do the digital mouth stretching thing, and they've got rows of teeth, and they bite people in blood spurts. And it's definitely, they didn't hold any punches on with the violence and cutting people's heads off with axes and things. It is a rated R film, and I'm glad they did. That being said, it could have gone a little further. The book goes a little further. But anyway, it's 105 minutes. You've got great actors doing crazy things with axes and vampire teeth. It's a lot of fun to be had, and you could watch a lot of worse things. Bogs down sometimes with some great acting. It just feels like sometimes you've got two great actors in a scene that they didn't want to cut it because this is a great scene. Lincoln and Mary have some great scenes in the final third of the movie. But they also stop the action. You were in the middle of some action and they're going to but they have to stop home for a while. And then all of a sudden things bog down with a little politics and a little family stuff. And it's like, I understand. Maybe it just could have been streamlined a little better. But again, the movie overall doesn't feel too long. It's definitely well made. It's action packed. And if you have an inkling to watch Abraham Lincoln take down a tree with one axe swipe, the special effects are actually pretty good. Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It's a pretty fun flick that holds up here 8 years later. Check it out, especially around Halloween time. I would put this, this would be on a good double feature with an Evil Dead movie, something like that, Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness. That Army of Darkness would be a good twin with this. Check out Tamir Bekmambetov's Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. It's still available out there, although the 3D version is quite pricey now, I understand, as 3D TVs have gone away. I think they'll come back. This was a side thing I was going to do, but I think eventually we're going to be able to view 3D images without glasses, and I think that's when 3D will come back. And I think any of us that own any of these 3D Blu-rays, because 4K doesn't have a 3D standard at this point, we'll be able to watch those without glasses on a three-dimensional television or screen of type down the road, but that's just me. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Anyway, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was fun to revisit. Let me know what you think about it. My website, therockfile.com, has links to all my stuff. You can interact with me, contact. I'm starting to do some live things on YouTube and in Facebook groups, so I'll be adding that to the Rockfile room, if you want to check that out. There's a couple different things we'll be doing. There'll be one where I broadcast live and you guys can chat with me, and then we'll be doing rooms where you can actually get into a room and you can do that. We've got to kind of save that stuff for Patreon, but I don't have a big Patreon audience yet, so we'll just have fun with it in a Facebook group. How does that go? Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for listening.